Thousands of university students across Australia recently voted in the first national student referendum in 50 years, led by the National Union of Students, the NUS, and the Students for Palestine Collective. Mass meetings took place in every major university in the country, building on a long legacy of anti-war movements born on these campuses. This vote and the last back in 1975 both spotlighted the push for Palestinian rights. So why do issues beyond our borders and those relating to the Palestinian cause consistently galvanise young people?
What's convicted you to come out today?
I don't know anyone who can turn on their TVs, open their phones, seeing the brutality in Gaza and sit back.
We can see that, this is our future at stake, and the people in power are out of touch with the vast majority of people, especially young people.
We stand on the shoulders of giants when it comes to activism. We have a chant which goes, "Remember South Africa, remember Vietnam." And that is what we're building on.
The last student referendum 50 years ago came off the back of massive student-led demonstrations against the Vietnam War, the longest and largest anti-war movement in Australia's history. In 1974, 7 pro-Palestinian motions, including some pushing for a Palestinian state, were put forward by the student union at the time, but all were strongly defeated. The union tried again in 75 and failed a second time. We tracked down an ex-student activist who voted in favour of the motions at Melbourne's La Trobe University.
By 73, it was pretty clear Americans had lost the war in Vietnam, and so a lot of people on the left saw the Palestine being the next key point in terms of national liberation struggles. And the student movement still continued, but it wasn't at its peak and didn't have the same vibrancy. The Palestinians didn't have the same cachet and didn't seem such worthy victims, if you like.
That situation has just changed so drastically today that the horrors in Gaza have really laid bare the reality of the whole project of the occupation of Palestine.
This time around, registered students debated and voted on these 2 motions.
We demand an end to all weapons sales to Israel by Australia and Australian companies. Students call on all Australian universities to end their complicity with Israel's genocide in Gaza by ceasing partnerships with all weapons companies.
Our responsibility is to pile the pressure on our government and our universities and call out their complicity.
A report by the UN Independent International Commission of Inquiry has recently found that genocide is occurring in Gaza, an accusation Israel has said it categorically rejects. The Australian government has recently acknowledged that it exports parts for F-35 stealth strike fighters to a global supply chain that includes Israel as a customer.
We contribute components and parts that are non-lethal in nature.
At the United Nations General Assembly in September, Australia recognised the state of Palestine, a foreign policy shift said to be
humanity's best hope to break the cycle of violence in the Middle East.
Separately, some major Australian universities have disclosed relationships with the weapons manufacturers, including Lockheed Martin, the F-35 program industry leader, and Talos Australia, who make artillery, ammunition shells and projectiles. Both companies are also suppliers to the Australian Defence Force. We've contacted those universities and each have denied involvement in the global supply chain of weapons.
Today is students all across the country saying, not in our name, not with our research, and not with our money.
The student referendum received over 5,000 registered votes, which represents about 1% of the national student body, and showed overwhelming support for the motions, with a unanimous result on some campuses. The few students who voted against the motions say campuses shouldn't hold debates that risk fracturing the student body.
Universities should be spaces of learning, respectful debate, and coexistence. These motions undermine those values.
It feels like we are righting a historical wrong in Australia by correcting the record with the history of the failed student referendums on Palestine in the past.
The NUS has penned an open letter to the Prime Minister and CEO of Universities Australia with the result, hoping it will mount pressure for divestment. It also hopes the referendum will build momentum for student activists to tackle other issues.
I think this is a mandate to our union and to student unions across the country that students want to see our student unions taking a stand, even when it might be unpopular or controversial, to stand on the right side of history.